I'm Juliet from Spoilt Rotten Beads, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a lovely carousel bracelet using the new Kite Beads. So to make the lovely carousel bracelet here, you're going to need some of the kite beads, and they really sparkle beautifully in the lovely violet gold colour, violet gold luster colour that I've used here. But what I'm going to be doing today is showing you how to make it in this beautiful turquoise green colourway. And you can see how the kite beads have got two holes, and because of the shape of them, the unique shape of them, they really tessellate and slot together beautifully. And if I just show you how they do that, just by positioning these beads for you, you'll see exactly what I mean, how they really slot together in a really pretty way. And it just means that there's so many different design possibilities with them. We've made these simple flowers here that we've embellished with the 3mm Preciosa fire polish beads and then size 15 seed beads here. But there's just an awful lot you can do with them, and because there's a brand new bead, there's lots of different patterns coming out all the time for these. You'll also, as well as the kite beads, well, actually what I'll just tell you about is how many beads you're going to need. So to make the bracelet in the length that I've done here, which measures around about 7.5 inches or around 19 centimeters in length, you're going to need 56 kite beads. You'll need a clasp, some size 15 seed beads, some 3mm fire polish rounds, some size 10 beading needles, and some fireline thread, and also a pair of. So the first thing you need to do is to take your needle and thread it up with the longest length of fire line that you're happy working with, and for me that's just over 1 metre. So I've threaded my fire line onto my size 10 beading needle, and you're going to start off by picking up 8 of the lovely kite beads, and you're going to be going through the hole that's in the narrowest part of the kite bead there, and you want to pick up 8 kite beads, all going through that narrowest point of the bead. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, and there we go, there's my 8 beads there. So I'm going to take them down to the end of my thread, and I'm going to leave a tail of around about sort of 6 to 8 inches, because I'm going to use that later on to attach the clasp onto my piece. And then what you need to do is to tie a knot so that the beads all come round into a circle. So just tying a regular knot there. You see how they've all come round into a circle and formed that flower shape already. And then to make that knot really nice and secure, I'm going to do a double knot, or what I call a surgeon's knot, where I just go through the loop on my knot several times before I pull it tight. And that's a nice surgeon's knot there, and that will be nice and tight there. There's my first little circle of flowers. Then what you need to do is you need to step up into the empty hole on the top of the next kite bead in your pattern, like that, and the thread will actually sit around the outside of the kite bead. You don't really notice this when the design is finished. And then you need to pick up a size 15 seed bead, a size 3mm fire polish bead, and then another size 15 seed bead, and go through the empty hole in the next kite bead in your pattern and pull it tight, and you'll see it will sit on the edge and embellish the piece like that. And you need to go all the way around the piece doing that. So I'm picking up a size 15 fire polish and another size 15, and then going back through the empty hole on the next kite bead in my pattern. And I'm going to go all the way around my circle, and I'm going to come back to you when I have done that. Okay, so I've gone all the way around, embellishing my first little flower bead there with the fire polish beads and the size 15 seed beads, and I'm exiting from this kite bead right here. And what I'm going to do now is stitch through the next size 15 and the next 3mm fire polish bead in my pattern. So I'm now popping out of this 3mm fire polish bead here. So the next thing you need to do is to pick up a size 15 seed bead and then pick up one of your kite beads. But this time you're going to be going through the shortest edge or the top of that kite there. Thread that down, And then what you need to do is to pick up a 15, a fire polish bead, and another 15, followed by another kite bead, like so. Let's pull this away so that you can see the whole pattern there. And I'm going to continue until I have picked up a total of 8 of the kite beads, and I'm going to finish like I started with a size 15 seed bead. So I'm going to come back to you when I've done that. Okay, so I've got threaded on all 8 of my kite beads, and as you can see I'm finished with a little size 15 seed bead here. And then what I'm going to do is going to go back to this 3mm fire polish bead that we're popping out of on the original flower, and go back through that bead from the other direction. And as I pull this tight now, these kite beads will all flip around into a circle, and then we're going to take them and point them all towards the center of the circle, like so. There we go. And I'm going to stitch through the size 15 and the kite bead, the next kite bead in the pattern. There we are. And then I'm going to hop down to the empty hole on the bottom of that kite bead there. So this will take my thread around the outside of the kite bead, and it will make me change direction on my circle, because now what I can do is just stitch through all of the empty holes on the bottom of those kite beads just to bring them together to form that neat little flower shape there. There we go. Pull this nice and tight and back to the bead I started from there, and that will join the circle. So pulling that tight and join the circle, so that has joined those beads all up to form that circle. But what I want to do now is just, I'm going to stitch back through to the other side, because what I want to end up doing is exiting from this fire polish bead here so that I can add my next flower onto the component. So I'm just going to stitch through and show you how we're going to get to that point. Pulling it all nice and tight. You see this as you go, it really starts to tighten up. What I'm going to do is stitch through the next kite bead here, and then hop up to the top hole on that kite bead. So I'm exiting this kite bead, I'm hopping up to the top hole on that kite bead. Pull this nice and tight. Make sure your thread stays around the outside of that kite bead and doesn't get caught on your fire polish beads, and just making sure everything's pulled nice and tight so that circle is nice and snug. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the next size 15 and the fire polish bead, and you can see I am now exiting the fire polish bead here, and I'm ready to repeat that whole process again to create another circle. So I'm just going to keep going until I've created all of my circles, and I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've made a total of 7 of the little flowers there to make my bracelet. So I'm going to come back to you when I have made 7 of these. Okay, so I've finished my flowers here, and I've done a total of 7 flowers, and I've used 56 of my kite beads. And I'm finishing off by exiting the 3mm fire polish bead on my last little flower component there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up 10 of my size 15 seed beads. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 size 15 seed beads. And then I'm going to pick up my clasp, 1/2 of my clasp, and I'm going to sew back down through it will be the 6th seed bead that that I just added. So I've left 4 here between the clasp and my needle, and so I'm threading through this size 15 here. Pull that tight, and I'm going to pick up 5 more size 15 seed beads. And now what I'm going to do is thread back through that 3mm fire polish bead, but from the opposite direction there. So I'm threaded back through that 3mm fire polish bead, and then I pull this nice and tight. You'll see this will sit around and form a nice little neat clasp loop there. What I want to do now is add a little bit of strength to this clasp loop. So I'm going to retrace my steps by going back through all of the beads in that clasp loop one more time. So just going to find my place here. Here we go. So threading through the 15s in the clasp loop, down through the rest of the beads there. There we go, nearly there. There we go. So I've threaded through all of those size 15s in that clasp loop one more time, just to add a bit more strength. And I'm just going back through that fire polish bead as well, pulling it all nice and tight as I go. And now what I'm going to do is stitch through the next size 15 and the next kite bead in my pattern. And I'm ready now to finish off my thread. So to finish off my thread, I'm going to stitch between the kite bead and the size 15. So I have a little loop, stitch through that loop and pull that loop tight between the kite bead and the 15. And I'm going to do that one more time there. And then pull that knot that I've made into the next bead, which is a size 15. And again, I'm popping out of the 3mm fire polish bead, and I'm going to do it a couple more times so that I feel it's nice and secure before I trim off my thread. There we go. Pull that into the next few beads. Do it one more time, just for luck. There we go. Pull that tight. And now I'm ready to trim off my tail of thread. And there we go. So that's the clasp there on one half of my bracelet. If I go back to the beginning here, you remember right at the beginning we left this tail of thread here. So what I'm going to do is add my needle now onto my tail of thread. Let me thread my needle. There we go. Just going to trim the end of my thread there. I hate trying to thread a needle on camera because it always looks a bit trickier. So I'm going to trim my thread so that I've got a nice sharp end of file line. Make it easy for myself there to thread my needle. There we go. So that's my needle threaded. And what I want to do now is I want to stitch around my circle so that I'm exiting from this last fire polish bead on the end. So I'm going to hop up the outside of the kite bead and just stitch through beads on the edge of my piece here so that I am exiting the correct fire polish bead, and then I'll be able to attach the other half of the clasp in exactly the same way as I just have done. So just going to get myself to the right point there and do that for you one more time. There we go. So I'm now exiting the fire polish bead on the end here, and I can just do exactly the same as I did before for the other half of my clasp. So I'm picking up a total of 10 seed beads. There we are. And then the other half of my clasp, and then stitching down through the 6th seed bead that I added, and picking up 5 more of my seed beads before I go back through the fire polish bead there. And once again, I will stitch through everything in my clasp loop one more time and then finish off my thread as I did before. And that will be my beautiful carousel bracelet finished. You see the two lovely colorways that we've made it in here. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please let us know what you think in the comments below, and do share your designs using these lovely new kite beads with us on our Facebook page, and come back soon for more inspiration. Bye guys.